Well, hey there. Um, we're on the fifth of our chakras. We're in week 6 now, 2 more weeks after this. So this week plus 2 more. And this time we're working on our throat chakra, the Vishuddha chakra. The meaning of that is the pure place. And this is the last of the chakras that deal with the physical world in terms of our energy centers. And it's it's the bridge between the heart chakra and our mind, the third eye chakra. So it's the bridge between our emotions, our feelings, our passions, and our thoughts. Our creative thoughts, our expressive thoughts, all of that. It really works with our communication. The location is at the base of the throat. So we talked about the heart chakra being right about at the base of the sternum, this is right at the collarbone, where the collarbone comes in, and the top of the rib cage. The base of the throat. It's associated with our ability to speak up, to develop a spiritual voice. And this is also the first chakra whose element is present in all of the other chakras. So in our root chakra, the element of this chakra, which I'll talk about in a second, the element of ether or space, this chakra is also, or the element of this chakra is present in that chakra as well. In our root chakra, our sacral chakra, our heart chakra, all of the solar plexus chakra. It's present in all of those. It's ruled by the planet Jupiter. And in the Indian tradition, the planet Jupiter represents the teacher, represents the guru, if you will, the one that does the instruction. When this chakra is open, you have no problems expressing yourself, your feelings, your belief, your creativity, your emotional needs. You have no problem talking about that. You're not embarrassed by any of that. You're not, there's no fear of other people's opinions. It really is a freedom of speech and the ability to express your beliefs, even those that might be difficult for others to understand, or in a setting where they may not have the same beliefs as you. You're still able to confidently express those beliefs. It grants you the ability to sit in silence and to appreciate silence. So when this chakra is open, it's not just the talking, it's also the listening. And that listening to silence, that listening to your inner voice, all of that is part of this. When it's open, you have a melodious voice, kind of like in a sing-song type voice, or you talk a lot in with a lot of inflection, ups and downs, and changes in tonality and whatnot. You have a strong command of speech. It's easier to compose poetry when this chakra is open. You have that ability to combine words and to engender words with different meaning, to imbue them with different meanings, and to combine them into ways that really express in a non-traditional or non-linear ways. You're able to write really strong poetry. You can interpret the written word, especially within the sacred scriptures. Sometimes that's difficult to do. You read a passage in the Bible or in the Quran or in the Bhagavad Gita, and you're kind of like, I don't really understand what that means. But this chakra helps you to interpret that, to see the deeper meaning behind the written words. Or when you get an email from someone or a text message and you're like, are they upset with me? An open throat chakra helps you to understand and fully appreciate the written word. You can also understand other messages, like your messages in your dreams, the messages that the world is always sending to us. You know, when sometimes you get that buzzing in your ear, they call it tinnitus or whatever. If it's on only one side or the other, that has different meanings. It has different spiritual meanings in terms of where that buzzing is coming from, the pitch of that buzzing as well. If it's a low pitch or if it's a really fairly high pitch, that is a lot of times that's the spiritual world communicating, trying to communicate with us, and we're picking that up. We're not paying attention to spirit, or we're not paying attention to ourself, and that's just it's a key to just tune in, to take a moment and see what's going on in your world at that point in time. It also, when this chakra is open, this really, like I said before, commands or is ruled by the planet Jupiter, the teacher, and this chakra really enables our ability to teach others. And not just to get our point across, but for them to understand, for us to speak in their language, if you will. Right? You've heard people saying about, I'm gonna speak from the heart now. Okay, that is really doesn't come from the heart, but it comes from our throat chakra. And we've also heard someone say, I'm gonna give him a piece of my mind. And what does that really mean? It really means, well, I'm angry with him. I'm gonna tell him off. Okay, so that's speaking from up here. Okay, I'm going to give him a piece of our mind, or I want to share some thoughts with you. That's our connection. That's that bridge again between the heart and the mind. It's taking those heart messages and those brain messages, and it's interpreting them in various ways. When it's overactive, you become an overactive talker, right? They say there's a 12-step program for that. It's called Anon and On and On. But you're basically just speaking to hear the sound of your own voice. This ties in with gossiping. It also ties in with overeating, smoking, alcoholism, anything that enters our body through the throat that's not good for us. So taking drugs, if you're taking them intravenously, no. But if you're taking pills, then yeah, that could be if you're addicted to pain pills or something along those lines. They're entering into your body through the throat. So the throat chakra really, really, really controls what we want to put into our bodies. Right? Our digestive system, our solar plexus chakra might be the one that's converting that from the physical into energy that our body then absorbs, but it's our throat chakra that allows that to enter into us. So when it's overactive, when you have too much energy in your throat chakra, and somebody asked what that means in terms of how do you know if a chakra is overactive, or how does a chakra become overactive? And really, it's just spending too much of your personal energy or your thoughts dealing with the functions of that chakra. So again, if you're overeating, that's an overactive throat chakra because you're constantly using the energy of that chakra or the main bodily the organs that it maintains. So what else? When it's completely closed, you develop an inability to communicate effectively, right? People are always asking, like, what are you trying to say? You also speak half-truths. And by the way, that has nothing to do, that communicating effectively, has nothing to do with language barriers. Someone who doesn't speak the same language and is trying to convert in their mind the words, and they're not putting it together correctly, that has nothing to do with the throat chakra. That's completely outside. But if your throat chakra is open, you may be able to understand them better, even though they're not putting the right words in the right sequence or using the right terminologies that you might use in the English language. You can kind of help them through in that talking. So that's not what we're talking about communicating effectively. What we're talking about here is that you can't get your point across, regardless of how you phrase it. You also speak half-truths or non-truths, also known as lies. And they might be, unknown to you, these half-truths. They can come just passively. Someone asks you how you're doing, how you're feeling, and you're like, oh, I'm fine, with a big smile on your face, and inside you're like freaking out, but you don't want them to know that. That's a half-truth. So your ability to express your inner feelings, in your outer expressions, that ties in with this chakra as well, right? If you're stressed, you look stressed. If you're happy, you look happy. Not the other way around. It's not like when you're stressed, you look happy. Unless you're, someone who really, really enjoys being stressed. When the chakras close, you're not able to stand up for what you believe in. And you're not able to bring your joys, your dreams, your desires. You're not able to bring those to life. That's that communication, right? Where do our dreams come from, right? Where do our passions, where do our wants and our desires come from? We think about it, we feel about it, we want it, right? So that throat chakra helps us to bring those, just like it helps us bring our thoughts and ideas and everything to life when we speak about them. It governs everything in our communication, our hearing, your mouth, your tongue, your throat, your ears, your eyes, and your hands. You communicate a lot with your hands, and not just that kind of communicating, right? But when you touch someone, you're communicating a lot with them. When you strike someone, you're communicating a lot with them. So our hands are very, very powerful communicators. You can give a message with just one finger, for example. So be careful how you use your hands. The peace sign can mean something else in a completely different language. There's that ability or inability to express yourself. And it also ties in with our empathy. Our empathy is when you're able to feel the way somebody else feels, but yet you're detached from that, so you can take action and help them. That's different than sympathy, where you feel the same way that they feel, and you get caught up in those feelings, right? So they say that their Aunt Sally died, and you remember when your Aunt Sally died, and now you're both crying. That's sympathy. But empathy is when they tell you your Aunt Sally died, and you remember when your Aunt Sally died, and you remember what you did in order to work through that grief, and so you help them. That's empathy. That's the difference. You're detached from the emotional tie. You can feel it. You can sense it in others, but you're detached from it. You don't have that. You don't lose yourself in their emotions or in their situation. So empathy is very big for this chakra. Health issues would be, again, speech issues or speech impediments, stuttering, like we talked about already, eating disorders. The symptoms of stress actually come from the throat chakra, because most of our stress is our inability to express ourselves. If we could clearly delineate what's going on in our world, where we're feeling pressures, and if we were able to honestly express that, we would feel less stress. We would feel less stress. And I've learned that specifically over the past 3 years or so, as I've been dealing with these mental health issues that just came out of nowhere for me. Well, they came out of an entire life, but the sudden onset of them in terms of how they affected my ability to communicate with the world. And it just so happens, when I took my chakra test to see where I'm at on my chakras, I believe my throat chakra was overactive. So I've been working on that. Deafness is also controlled or can be attributed to the throat chakra, and that sense of feeling in your hands. If your hands are numb a lot, or you don't, you're not able to communicate effectively with your hands. That's all part of the throat chakra. So how do we open this? Well, first off, we let go of the falsity. Like I said, we learn to communicate, and we learn to communicate effectively. We brave our way through the fear that other people will laugh at us or hold it against us if we tell them about things that we're worried about or things that are bothering us, right? You know, those are at times things that are hard to express. So anything that we feel is hard to express and we're burying it inside, we're burying it, that either is going to be closing or potentially over activating our throat chakra. So we need to be able to express that. We really need to be able to express that. We don't want to placate others. So when they're expressing, we don't want to be like, oh yeah, that's nice. Like, you know, not really say, hey, you know what, you said that in a way that hurt me. I understand where you're coming from. I understand that what I did bothered me, but you know, maybe you could have chosen some different words, because it really sounds like, you know, whatever. So we don't placate someone, you know, right? Like they tell us they're angry with us and we go, oh, I'm sorry, I'm just emotional. No, that's just placating to their needs, and that's just burying our own needs inside. So don't do that. Don't do that. And also to give honest advice, right? Unless the question is, do these pants make me look fat? Always give a loving answer then. But in all other situations, give honest advice. Give honest advice. If somebody asks you, and if you're not sure that they really want to know, ask them, do you really want to know? Do you really want to know what I have to say about this? Sometimes they'll say, no, you know what, I honestly, I really don't. And that's good, move on. Move on. But if it calls for honest advice, give honest advice. Okay? So on to the things that help us open this chakra properly. First off, it's the color blue. So wearing blue, blue eyeshadow, blue clothes, all that stuff. Anything blue does help. Foods that are easily digested, and foods that add sweetness to life. So like fruits, fruit juices, honey. You think about every time you get a sore throat, what do you go for? Lemon, honey, tea. That's the same thing that you're going to go for with the throat chakra. That turmeric milk, the golden milk that I shared the recipe a while back. That, again, if it enters the throat and it's healthy, you're using the throat chakra for the right reason, and you're helping to activate it, to open it. So fruits and fruit juices do that as well. I already mentioned that. Foods that are blue or bluish or have blue in them, because we know that purple is part red, part blue. So blueberries, they're not really blue. I guess they're more blue than purple, but like blackberries, those are really dark purple, which means they have way more blue in them than they have red in them. Eggplant, purple kale, purple potatoes, blue corn. You know, those are all some examples of foods that work with the throat chakra, because they have blue, or they have the association of blue within them. And again, it's that easily digested foods. So no meats, no heavy fats. You know, healthy fats are good. Avocados are a great example of healthy fat. Foods that are easy to digest. And honestly, this is one of the best reasons to incorporate a plant-based diet, to incorporate a whole food plant-based diet without a lot of oils, without a lot of processed foods, without a lot of additives or chemicals or any of that kind of stuff. To eat as healthy, as clean as you possibly can. the more you put into through your throat chakra down into your solar plexus chakra in the stomach area where that's all digesting and whatnot, the healthier all that is, the healthier your chakras are going to be, the healthier that you're going to be. And that's spiritually, mentally, physically, everything. And again, that's what my website, Eating Right, W-R-I-T-E, eatingright.com, that's what my website is all about. It's all about that. Right now, it's just a bunch of recipes and I'm building it as I go. So keep checking it out because there's going to be new things there. There's going to be some more spiritual health things to do. All of these videos and stuff are going to wind up on the website, all that stuff. So keep checking back. What is this throat chakra influence? It influences your will, your power of choice, your sense of truth. So hearing truth from others or seeing truth out in the world and speaking, knowing what is true. And where truth comes from. That's all part of the throat chakra. The element, I talked about briefly that this element is the only one that is representative in all of the chakras in some way, not as much as in the throat chakra, but it's the element of Akasha, which is Sanskrit for ether, or infinite space, limitless space is another interpretation, or sky is another interpretation of Akasha. Again, I hope I'm saying these Sanskrit words right. I don't know Sanskrit, so I'm just basically going off of how it looks like it should be pronounced. So if anybody out there knows them, please let me know. I'll change my pronunciation on them. But this Akasha, the ether, this is matter in its purest form. So before it becomes something that you can define, like, oh, it's a rock, right? That is matter in the form of a rock. Or it's ice. That's matter in the form of ice. It can be no other matter at this point. This is matter in its purest form. It's pure energy. It hasn't become any one thing yet, so it can still be all things. Right? So it's nothing in the sense of that we can't identify it as being something. The moment it becomes something, it can't be anything else. Right? Unless it gets converted, like you eat an apple, the apple becomes energy to you. Okay, that's different. But as long as that apple is an apple, it can't be something else. Okay? And that's what ether is. That's what this element, the throat chakra element is. It's matter in its purest form. The symbol for it is again the yantra symbol. It's circular, as all of these are, or wheels, if you will, because that's what they are inside us. They're they're like spinning wheels, like a vortex, if you will, and the energy spins depending on how open or closed the chakra is, or if it's overactive or underactive. But this one has 16 smoky purple lotus petals on the outside, pointing in all directions, like a compass. On the inside, there's a downward-facing triangle, and inside that is a kind of a bluish-white circle, and that represents the ether. And then Ham, H-A-M, is the sound mantra for this. So the symbol for Ham is inside the yantra as well. And we're going to do a yantra meditation on this, so you'll see the symbol in a couple of days. Essential oils are bergamot, chamomile, eucalyptus, sandalwood, tea tree, peppermint. So, all of those kind of those essential oils that warm your throat, right? If you've ever taken eucalyptus or Hall's mentholyptus, or you suck on a cough drop or whatever, and that soothes the throat. Peppermint, again, is something that we can really feel in our throat. The stones and the crystals are turquoise, amber, aquamarine, amazonite, lapis lazuli, and amethyst. Those are all of the stones that can help you with your throat chakra, and there's different ways to use those as well. So different ways to use the stones and the crystals. The florals, the floral essences, or the floral fragrances and essential oils from the flowers are bluebell, borage, larch, lobelia. I love lobelia flowers. Snapdragons, my wife's favorite, snapdragons. Funny thing is, she like pushes them together and makes them talk, and they're associated with the throat chakra. Who knew? Apparently, a lot of people over thousands of generations. Not me. I just learned all this stuff over the past 10 years. I've learned all this stuff. But anyway, snapdragons. Oh, and blackberry flowers. The flowers that become the blackberries. Those are also part for the throat chakra. And then in terms of essence, myrrh resin, which is one of the three things that the wise men brought to the baby Christ when he was born. And it's interesting because, again, if he is supposed to be prophet, the myrrh resin is there to help get the point across, to be a teacher, right? That's what all the throat chakra works with. So those wise men weren't just bringing random stuff. If you really understand what those gold, frankincense, and myrrh, what those really represented in terms of the essence of the items and their spiritual significance or their karmic significance, their chakra significance, you might better understand the whole concept of Christianity. It's been diluted over the years by all the Christian faiths, until it's really become, a bunch of disconnected. I think there was something like 6,000 Christian faiths, registered Christian faiths, on Google. I might have to look that up. Maybe it might be more, but just take a look at that. There's that splintering again, that Tower of Babel, right? When that's where we get the word babble, because when you can't understand what someone is saying, like, man, you're just babbling. That's where we get that word, when all the people all of a sudden they couldn't understand each other. And then again, when on the I can't think of the word, but when the Spirit came down in the tongues of flame and touched all of the apostles, and they were suddenly speaking in their own language, but they could hear each other. They could understand anybody that's speaking in their native language. So that was the reversal of that, and that again was all the blessing, the opening of the throat chakras. But over the years, again, we've gone from the one Christianity for a couple, hundreds of years, until it splintered off in the Martin Luther era, when Protestantism became, and then then we have, like I said, just Google that. How many registered Christian faiths are there? It's amazing number of how many there are. In fact, I'm gonna Google that as well. So the important thing for this chakra really is to understand that the essence of your communication, your ability to express yourself, your ability to explain to others, to understand others, both verbally, written, and your ability to, if you're an author or a poet or a songwriter, your ability to get your message, to creatively present your message. If you're a public speaker, all those TED Talks, throat chakra. But the most important thing about this chakra is to understand that this is how we communicate with the world, and by the world I mean all of creation, right? And all of creation includes the things that have not yet been created and the things that have you know, been uncreated, um, or have faded away, at least in the form that they were. Like, think of animals that are extinct that will never take that form again. Ether can never become that animal again because it no longer, the pattern for it has been eliminated. So make sure that you're taking care of this chakra. Make sure that you're taking care of your communication. Make sure that you're expressing yourself. You're not looking for attention. There's going to be a lot of trolls out there. There are a lot of people that, they're telling people how they're upset because they want the attention. In fact, I'm just going to say this real quick because it's on my mind and I'm expressing myself. But I joined a Facebook group that was all about spirituality. And it was amazing how many of these spiritual people were knocking other people's beliefs and perspectives. I left it within, it wasn't even a month. It really, really disturbed me how all of these people that are claiming to be spiritual and they do all these things that are spiritual in nature, and they talk about how they're communicating with the seventh level of angels and all this other stuff, and they're knocking everybody else down. It seems to me if you're communicating with the seventh level of angels, you probably don't even need to worry about what other people believe. But that's just me. So anyway, not knocking them down, not saying that their ways are wrong and my ways are right. It didn't feel like it came from truth. That's what I'm going to say about that. Their comments definitely did not come from truth. They were not helpful. They did not come from love. They did not come from they moved away from establishing a loving environment, caring environment. And I still have problems with that every once in a while too. It was just a couple of days ago, I had an encounter with somebody on Instagram, and they were claiming about how they were being, that they're a vegan, but the list of foods that they had in this vegan cookbook, I was like, oh my God, this stuff is so unhealthy, like crescent rolls and all this stuff, and I knocked them for it. I don't know why I did it. I was just like, I don't see why you're putting this stuff in your body. You don't understand, how unhealthy it is. And they're like, so what? It's vegan, right? There's actually Pillsbury, I believe, is a vegan. They don't use butter or animal products in their crescent rolls. They're Pillsbury crescent rolls. So, yay for you if you want to eat all the other stuff that's in there. But I had no reason. To attack her sense of self like that. And really, I was attacking the foods, but she took it as an attack on her. And as soon as I realized it, I cleaned it up. I apologized to her. I apologized to her in private, and I apologized in public, because once that energy's out there, once the ether, once your words become real, right? As long as if it's a thought up in here, like somebody cuts in front of you and you're thinking, oh, that big jerk, that's different than expressing that big jerk. Okay? The minute your words become real, you can't take them back. The energy that you've used, that you've expressed out there, you can't take it back. The only thing you can do is clean it up. And the way you clean it up is by first apologizing, moving back towards love. And anytime I've ever gotten angry at somebody driving like a big jerk, as soon as I've realized that they're driving like a big jerk, and I've expressed that even mentally, I haven't said it, but I've expressed it mentally, I'll change my thought pattern. And I'll say, you know what? They might have been distracted. Maybe they've got a lot going on. Maybe they just lost their job and they don't know how to go home and tell their spouse or their kids, or maybe, who knows, right? It very likely was not done on purpose. And so I'll send them off with a blessing, right? I'll send them off with a blessing like, may your angels be flying close to you today, right? Give them that blessing. Help them along their way. So hopefully the next time they do something, if they are distracted, or even if they are just being a big jerk because that's where they're at in their heart and their mind, and so that's all they can express right now because they're closed, their chakras are all closed. So even if they are being a big jerk, they still have their angels. They might not recognize them or see them or believe in them or trust them or any of that stuff, but that doesn't mean that they're not there, right? That doesn't mean they're not there. It's like the Schrodinger's cat thing, right? You put the cat in the box, it doesn't mean that the cat's not there, but as long as you don't look in the box, do you really know if the cat's there? It doesn't matter if the cat's dead or not. You don't even know if the cat's still there if you don't open the box. It's the same thing. If you don't believe in your chakras, if you don't believe in all of this spiritual stuff, it doesn't mean that you don't have them in your body. If you don't believe in guardian angels, if you don't believe in spirits, if you don't believe in the ability to communicate with the dead, if you don't believe in any of that, it doesn't mean that it's not there. Leprechauns, that's a different thing. They're real. The Easter Bunny. Doesn't matter how much you believe in the Easter Bunny, but the concept of the Easter Bunny or Santa Claus or any of that kind of stuff, where they started from and what they, before they got commercialized and diluted, that moves to love. That moves, those move towards love. So be aware of that. Anytime you have even just a negative thought about something or someone, ask yourself why. Where did that come from? Where did that thought come from? Am I angry with something or someone and I haven't expressed it? Am I holding on to emotions and smiling all the time? But I'm so mad inside. I'm so angry with you, but it's okay. I'm just being emotional. If you ever say that phrase, look yourself in the mirror. Promise yourself you'll never, never, never use that phrase again. It's okay. I'm just emotional. Anyway, that's my sermon for today. My sermon on the chair. I don't qualify for doing it on the mount, but I do qualify for sermoning on the chair. I will talk to you guys soon. Love you.